So welcome to Nutrition Equity, the podcast where we explore the intersection of nutrition, health, and social justice. I'm your host, Joanna, and today we are talking with Jill and a very special episode lined up for you. We're joined today by Jill, who will be sharing her personal experiences as a parent of a child with PKU. And I know you have PKU also. Can you tell us a little bit about what PKU is?
PKU is also known as phenylketonuria. Phenylketonuria is detected at birth screening. Now, a lot of parents don't know what PKU is until their child has a positive diagnosis, which is either through the birth screening and then goes on to their pediatrician to confirm the diagnosis of phenylketonuria, which is PKU. Now, I did want to correct you on something. I do not have, my children do not have PKU.
Okay.
Only I do, but they will automatically carry the gene because I carry the gene.
Mm-hmm.
Both mom and dad have to have the genetic coding in order to pass that on to their children. I know some families, like my older sister, did not have PKU. So it's 1 in 100 births. Both parents have to carry that gene in order to transfer that genetic coding to their child. Where was I? So birth screening is where they do blood testing for diabetes, vitamin K, those kinds of things. Because at birth, I do remember my little one getting a vitamin K shot. She was screened at birth. They went ahead and did a follow-up. We knew the odds because we had genetic testing done. By the way, genetic testing is 100% covered by our insurances now, which is great. So even if we are women with PKU and we want to have children, and we want to know what the odds are of our child carrying on that genetic coding and actually coming down with PKU, coming down with it like it's a cold, sorry. It is something that our insurance does cover for both mom and dad to get blood testing done to see if dad is a carrier of that genetic coding.
Right. And
luckily for me, my husband does not carry that, so our girls do not have PKU.
Yeah. To confirm there, for an FYI, a lot of people think PKU is contagious, and it's not.
It's sad. I have seen women who have lost their jobs because of it. Yeah. And it's not like, it's the same thing with, like HIV. You're not going to catch it by just, being around somebody, or, it's not a contagious thing, nor is diabetes. So going on with saying that, we were going over prior to us being cut off. We were talking about testing. Home testing, unfortunately, is not available for PKU right now. It is something that they just can't get accurate enough levels for home testing right now. So until they figure that out, we are relying on our children's hospitals to test our blood, which I send a level in every 2 weeks. It probably should be weekly because I am on Palynziq. My levels are a little bit elevated. A 7 is not awful, but for me, that's not. I don't really feel the effect of that level very much because I've been doing a low carb diet, which has affected my level. And we're thinking that could be, hey, maybe I need another injection of Palynziq during the week, or I need more calories. I can tell you right now, I'm not getting enough calories, so that could be affecting it, because then what does your body do? Your body starts to digest it. It starts to break down proteins in the body, so that could be another reason why my level is a little bit elevated. Normally, before I started low carb, my blood count would be around 1, sometimes lower. Low effects and high effects for me are pretty much the same. I get irritable, I get sassy, I get cheeky with my kids. It's the same thing as having a level of like 14. I'm gonna start seeing those same behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
I can't focus. My anxiety, my depression they go through the roof pretty much.
Yeah.
It affects more my anxiety than my depression, and my feelings get hurt easily. It's not just a woman thing. It's a higher elevation because I'm already on edge. I'm already defensive, and if something is said wrong to me, then I get my feelings hurt and then I disengage. That's how I work when I have a higher or a low level.
So, talking about the mental health aspect of this, how does just having a rare condition affect you?
If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have been off the diet for 26 years.
Yeah.
In that duration, I did have a child, and again, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have. Luckily, with Michaela, her hearing loss has nothing to do with it, but her short stature and her developmental delays, those are contributing to me having her off of my PKU diet. I've seen horror stories where women don't find out until they're further along in their pregnancies, and it has taken its toll on the baby. I've seen, I saw one woman's story where her child was born with only half of her brain.
Wow.
So, it's scary. It's scary to jeopardize a life.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us don't know. Some of us, we're all different. Our bodies are all different. Sometimes pregnancy is detected early on. Sometimes it's 16 to 20 weeks later on down the road. And you're like, what have I done?
Yeah.
So and the mom guilt just instantly sinks in, like, I've just jeopardized, not just my life, but another life, you get the mom guilt of, it doesn't matter. It could be, your kid falling down and scraping their knee when you've turned your head and you blame yourself,
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's, if I knew then what I know now, I'm going to have that guilt with me for the rest of my life, because could my child have a normal life? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you live and learn, and I'm a testament to having a child off of my PKU diet, and luckily didn't have to say goodbye to my child.
Yeah.
Now, Juliet, our youngest, is currently 5. She thinks she's 10. She's sassy, she's tall, she's extremely smart, and she was 2 years in the planning. So I was back on diet before I even got pregnant with her.
Mm-hmm.
So, listen to your clinic. If you feel that you're not getting the attention that you want or deserve, in regards, you're not being heard. We're not being heard as women in the medical field. We see that all over the news nowadays, especially when it comes to our bodies. Whether it's, whether it's gynecological or mental health or things like that, we're not being heard. We need to find another doctor, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the horror stories of us PKU women getting completely dismissed by concerns, by having children. No, you can't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be retarded or they're going to die. You don't tell a woman that.
Yeah, no.
You straight up, you don't tell a woman that. And that's the thing that just baffles my mind, is like, do you realize, like, what that could blow up in your face? I could come back from practice.
Yes, you're right, but you got to think of doctors and how they think. It's like you could possibly pass this on to your child. And so
you know what? They're going to carry the gene regardless of whether or not we pray it away, whether we want it to go away, whether we think that we can take some kind of magical pill that's going to genetically, mold them perfectly. And you have that risk anytime you get pregnant, whether it's PKU, whether it's Down syndrome. That was another testing. Yeah, genetic testing was what we were talking about before we got cut off. Or
right.
This one. But that is an option. It's covered by insurance. So if you want to have children as a PKU woman, you're healthy, do it. Make sure you're on diet. Make sure, you're getting your genetic testing done. So then you know if there's going to be any other issue in your genetic coding that could be passed along to your child.
Mm-hmm. So are the medical foods covered in your state?
No, they are not. When I was on medical food, I had a $2,500 deductible, and it took a long time for me to realize, like, what a deductible was. When, they don't explain to you, what's covered. I mean, formula, I had to cash out my 401k to pay off my medical stuff when I was pregnant. Oh. So that was between medical food. I got to a point where I just started eating gluten-free stuff because a lot of that stuff is $5 to $10 cheaper than ordering from Canbrook, and still has the protein's a titch higher, but money-wise, I was saving quite a bit. When we're doing $200, $300 orders, and I can go, like, tortillas, for instance. Tortillas, when I was ordering them, were $10.50. I could go get a gluten-free tortilla for $6 a pack. Mm-hmm. So, I guess it's where you want to spend money and where you want to try to cut your corners financially, because I know not all of us women, especially if it's us and a child with PKU, can afford, doing orders, 2-3 times a year. Well, it's probably even more than that. I'd say, you're doing an order probably twice a month, maybe, like your normal grocery bill. And none of us can afford $300, $600 in medical food. It's just, there's got to be a way that we can, or the Congress can even, for the states that, you have your deductible, some kind of extra coverage.
Right.
Or an allowance,
What about the formula? Is it covered?
No, our formula was not covered. Again, that fell under our medical food in the state of Utah, so that was under my deductible. And I have really good health insurance. Mm. And I was only able, now I do, before when I was on my medical stuff, it was a $2,500 deductible, and I was barely even touching that.
Right. So, yeah, and the other part of this is vitamins, and so I know some of this, I know at least in Oregon they used to be covered, but aren't anymore. At least they were covered with a doctor's prescription. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how that varies in your state.
Well, and that was another thing, is coverage for Kuvan and Palynziq. A lot of us women that are on Palynziq currently are going through a heads up, you're going to get denied type of situation. Starting July 1st, it's going to be, there's other ways to treat your PKU other than this expensive drug. Mm-hmm. I was off diet for 26 years. If I have to, I will. But it's something that I didn't respond to Kuvan. That's why I'm taking Palynziq to treat my PKU. Mm-hmm. So they're going to start denying me Palynziq insurances because there is a cheaper treatment. Now, mm-hmm. Kuvan, I didn't respond to. I was on Kuvan for 7 months. I loved the way I felt. The clarity I had, the mental clarity I had was amazing. But I could not get my level below 8.
Yeah.
PKU levels, we all know, it needs to be between 2 and 6. I'm at an 8, so I'm at the higher end. Mm-hmm. Is it dangerously high? No, it's not. But it's going to start getting to a point where my anxiety, my depression, my short attitude with my family, those are all going to start taking a toll. Mm-hmm. I didn't respond to Kuvan. My sister didn't respond to Kuvan, but then that is a treatment that can go down as young as infancy for people, for children that have PKU. I was one of those people. I didn't respond. Some people can do a vegetarian life. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I was not one of those people. So I had to continue medical food and things like that. And Kuvan, that stuff is it's like eating Victrex. It's tart. It is a tart medication because you can get it in pill form or powder. It doesn't matter. It is sour.
Which one is this?
This is for the Kuban.
Oh, yeah, we have something similar like Cystidane. It's called Cystidane. That is, it's like a bitter salt.
This stuff was just straight like Sour Patch Kid powder. It was, and you burp that stuff up, and it was.
And a lot of people.
It was not nice.
Yeah, a lot of people will mix it with their formula. I finally have one I can mix it with, but it's really tough. So when you became pregnant, how did that affect you? Or did you?
I was excited. With Michaela, I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I chose not to disclose my PKU. Again, it goes back to if I knew then what I know now type of situation. You know, I grew up and I had my faith in God. That was the main thing, is that I'm going to have a healthy child. I had that. I prayed it. I believed it. And that's how I was raised. So a lot of my faith in God deterred me from disclosing that information to my OBG.
Mm-hmm.
And if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have been on my diet. I would have been disclosing that information with my doctor and not hiding the fact that I had PKU, because at that age, I saw it as, like the scarlet letter on my chest, like everybody's going to know, everybody's going to be talking about me, this woman has the nerve to have a child, those kinds of things, because when you have older doctors, especially doctors set in their ways, and they've grown up in that era where, they weren't doing PKU screenings at birth. They weren't, but then they're just told, oh, well, this is going to cause, major, massive birth defects.
Yeah, we're going through.
Completely not the case.
So it's that's another problem we're going through with the newborn screening. It hasn't been reauthorized again. So I was just seeing last week that Texas passed it, but federally it hasn't been reauthorized. Do you eat out at all?
I do. Because I do low carb, so let's say yesterday I was down with a migraine. I was bedridden. I moved the couch. I have some issues with my neck, so it wasn't a PKU related migraine. Because sometimes when my level's too low, it can cause, tension headaches and things like that. But last night I had chicken nuggets from McDonald's and a Diet Dr. Pepper. That was essentially my dinner. I have chicken Caesar salad in my fridge right now. I have a protein shake that's 30 grams of protein ready to go because I haven't eaten today, and it's currently 1:30 my time. So that's a quick, easy. Go ahead.
What is your tolerance?
My tolerance is I should be doing at least 60 grams of protein a day. I am free to eat whatever I want when I want.
Yeah. And that's because
let's see, it's the same thing. It's the same thing you see in the Palynziq community. Okay, well, I have to get this amount of protein in or else my level's going to drop. Mm-hmm. Instead of going up, you're going down. And so that's where it's like, okay, well, how can I cram as much protein into, because I only eat twice a day. Right. So this meal, I have to get at least 30, then I'll have 30 for dinner. Or if I've been so busy with, mom life, that I'm like, it is 7 o'clock at night and I have had nothing to eat. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be the quickest way to get protein into my body because, like I said, you're going to have those. I get shaky, I get dizzy when I don't eat consistently through the day. Like right now, I've only had a cup of coffee today. Yeah. No calories other than the coffee itself because I have sugar-free sweetener. No, I did put whole milk in it. But then again, I'm trying to do low carb, so it's just the bare minimum. Yeah. But normally I do a sugar-free creamer. There's no calories in that. So I have 10 calories and that's it.
Yeah. So the calories don't matter.
I think calories matter just as much as protein does because you want calories because you're PKU. That's what your body is fueled off of is your calorie intake. Mm-hmm. And when I'm only doing 1,000 a day, my body's going to start to break down and I guess not digest itself, but it's going to start breaking proteins in my body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that because I'm a big girl. So I'm okay with that otherwise. But then again, it's going to cause my level to go up because I'm not getting enough calories. That was one thing when we were pregnant, that's one thing that we got through our formula because I had to switch. A lot of women I've noticed cannot tolerate the formula that they started off with pregnant. So a lot of women will change formulas in the middle or at the beginning of the pregnancy because they're not keeping it down. Because when we get sick, we have to replace those calories, formula and food. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to eat after they just got sick.
Yeah, I know they raise your at least I know with some people they raise the level of protein that you...
A lot of women, I don't know if I ate an astronomical amount of potatoes and green beans during my pregnancy because my protein intake never went higher.
Wow.
If anything, it went down lower because I'm a potato girl. I love my potatoes. Potatoes and green beans and tomatoes. Those were my go when I was pregnant.
Mm. That does seem to be big across the metabolic community is everybody likes potatoes.
And you know what? They're cooked so many different ways. It got to be where, I would use non-dairy creamer in my mashed potatoes so I could eat more of them. Mm-hmm. Because the creamer has calories and butter. I didn't go margarine, I went butter. Mm-hmm. Butter is so low in fee that it probably was one of those things I didn't really count that I probably should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people don't count butter, and that's...
I was like that with sour cream, too. People are like, oh, do vegan sour cream, it's lower in protein. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but it's only 10 grams of, only 10 grams of fee per tablespoon. Mm-hmm. But again, there were things I was willing to waste my protein intake on, and others I was not. Not sacrifice my protein intake because I only had so much for the day. I only had 8 grams of protein.
Wow.
So and that's including all of my medical formula. I was just like, yeah, nah.
So were you on the Palynziq when you were pregnant?
No, I was not. I have done a lot of research and reaching out to women who have had successful, and honestly, I haven't seen or heard anybody who's had a scary story to tell being on Palynziq during their pregnancy. And now finding out from clinic, the FDA is actually starting trial for pregnant women who are going to continue Palynziq. That was a discussion that my husband and I had. We had brought up another child, but we didn't want our child being a science experiment. To prove a point, we didn't want to do that. So now you have pregnant or planning to become pregnant, nursing currently, or planning on nursing during your pregnancy. I know one woman currently who is nursing her child and on Palynziq, hitting every milestone, sometimes earlier, sometimes not. And it's, these are things that you guys need to start looking in for because there's so many women across this country continuing Palynziq throughout their pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And that was the one thing was just baffling my mind is like, but you guys know of these women. It's like, okay, well, we're supposed to report it to the CDC. How many women in this clinic do you currently have pregnant and on Palynziq? We have 3. That's just in the state. That's not to mention all the other sister states. California, how many women are, currently pregnant or choosing to continue Palynziq through the pregnancy? Because, I've heard women who have been, who have gotten gestational diabetes. Mm-hmm. PKU diet is carbs and sugar. That is our diet as a PKU patient. Now you throw diabetes into that, where's your nutrition coming from? So clinic made that decision, suggested that the woman continue Palynziq through her pregnancy because nutrition is going to be key for her and the baby. And going back to a PKU diet, is just not going to be able to happen because now you have gestational diabetes on top of it. They're not going to make you stop Palynziq in the middle of a pregnancy anyway.
Mm-hmm. So what I tried to ask you before, you brought it up just now, did you nurse when you were pregnant?
No. I did. I did nurse the first 2 months. I ended up getting mastitis, and so that caused me to stop. But I was not on Palynziq. I was on my PKU diet that entire time. So actually, they didn't wean me off of my formula because that's where I was getting my calories to produce milk from. So I did continue the major amount because I was getting 1,800 calories just from formula alone. That was not including my medical food. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, because, you're creating life.
Yeah. So you have to get more calories also.
You have to produce your milk because if they would have reduced my formula intake, it would have probably depleted, if not completely wiped out milk supply. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to need those calories in order to produce.
Right. So yeah, that's where it's different with Palynziq. Since I don't know a whole lot about it because it's just being tested with HCU, so it's brand new with us. But it's exciting to see where it's going with PKU.
It's amazing. We've come so far in Palynziq and Kuvan lately, and I don't know if I think it was you that was telling me it's a lot different. They're a little more advanced on the East Coast versus, where I'm currently at.
Right.
But that makes sense because when I move, I'm going to be moving to the Pittsburgh Children's Hospital, and I do know a couple of people who have or are going to that clinic. Mm-hmm. And my clinic personally reached out to them, and they are very on board with everything. They're up to date as far as technology goes.
Right. So yeah,
as long as I don't have to worry about getting a doctor who's going to be like, well, we need to take you off this medication. It's too dangerous.
Right.
Look at my medical history.
He was the one that posted that map of where the doctors are, and almost all of them. The further east you go, the more doctors there are that are geneticists, genetic specialists. So it's kind of interesting in that one. But do you know how it's going to affect you when you move? Because I know you said you were moving to Ohio.
I am. I think my anxiety I've already had my yearly checkup. So my yearly's done. I won't need to see, they encouraged me to go see clinic at this year, sometime this year. And so I would only be an hour and a half away from clinic, which isn't awful, but we made a reason to go to Pittsburgh, twice a year. So, because we're hockey fans, so that was a plus to moving to Pittsburgh to the clinic. I did go to Akron Children's as a child. I will be living in Akron as well. So, I guess since the cat's been out of the bag and we've told everybody, it's not really much of a secret anymore.
Yeah.
But it was awful. It was awful. They used to lock my mom in the clinical room and threaten to call child services because my blood count's 45.
Because your blood count?
My blood count is 45.
Yeah.
Because they think she's not. I was a sneaky child. I'm not even gonna lie. I feel awful for the crap my mom went through when I was a child. Because I was that sneaky kid. I can't understand why I can't have a piece of fried chicken with dinner. Everybody else is getting it, but me and my sister don't get to have any.
Yeah. Oh, you had a sibling also.
Yeah. My younger sister has PKU as well. Mm-hmm. And she's actually getting her doctorate in nutrition. So, it's amazing, She's always been the smart cookie, and so... Mm-hmm. I was the boy crazy kid, but she's on Palynziq as well, so and she was one of those people that responded instantly, like within the month, 4 weeks. Yeah. I was 2.5 months before I responded. Some people are longer. Again, it depends. I never went into anaphylaxis. I think joint pain was my major ailment during this whole journey, and every once in a while, I get it in my knuckles and my fingers.
Joint pain, or you said?
Joint pain, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only real thing that I suffer from still.
Yeah.
You know, is the occasional joint pain, especially, you know, switching the weather from cold to hot. But that could just be age too. You know, like a creaky door.
Yeah. Having been off diet, does it affect you when you're around other people who have high protein things?
When I was on diet, no, not really, because I knew I wanted that baby. Mm-hmm. I wanted that baby. I wanted that baby as healthy as I could possibly make her.
Mm-hmm.
And clinic would give me a call. Well, Julie, your level's a little high. How do you feel if we lower your protein intake? I said, I don't like it, but it's not about me.
Yeah.
That was my main thing, is it's not about me. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I need to drink an extra glass of formula or two to keep myself full, which I never had an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
Never had an issue with staying full during my pregnancy, but more towards the end, I did a little bit of cheating here and there with like normal pasta and bread, but I didn't go crazy.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, how, like, now you're able to eat the meat and stuff that you weren't on if you're normally on diet, which, I mean, most people aren't able to eat meat and cheese and all that stuff, which I would be scared to death if just because having to have the extra protein is kind of a scary thing if you've been off diet.
It is, and you do see that with people who have no idea how to get that protein into their diet. They've been so used to relying on formula and medical food for that protein without the phenylalanine in it. And now they have to start introducing higher protein foods like yogurt.
Mm-hmm.
I always suggest, if you don't like textures of meat, like I said, I was off diet for so long, from the age of 10 to 36.
Mm-hmm.
I was off diet for so long that I definitely knew the PKU foods I did not like.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the foods I did like. So for women who have been on their PKU diet their entire lives and now trying Palynziq, yogurt is always a good go-to. It is a little bit of a texture difference, but not much. But when you start introducing meat, that's where people start getting grossed out, and it's a texture thing. I'm eating an animal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my clinic always suggested starting off with plant-based proteins.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's plant-based cheese, plant-based hot dogs, chicken nuggets, those kinds of things, to build up your tolerancy and your textures. It's because basically you're retraining yourself on how to eat. I'm still learning because now I'm throwing a low carb diet into it because I don't want to have diabetes.
Yeah.
So it's training myself, and I've been doing this since January now, so I finally lost 20 pounds, which has been my lightest in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing a PKU diet, it's all sugar and carbs, and then your medical food to get that protein in. And now we're retraining ourselves to not eat that stuff and to get the protein in through meat and dairy and whole grain foods. And it's like, you know, and that's great because clinic has always been there to guide me, because they see women that tend to gain weight that first 6 months of the, hey, I have free range to eat of whatever I want. And they tend to put on a couple of pounds. So it's normal because we don't know, you're letting the dog loose in the field, so we don't know, hey, we could be making healthier options, whether it's Greek yogurt or a lean cut of pork chop or chicken. That's stuff you can eat now.
Yeah.
And it's also giving yourself that permission.
Yeah. Which is a scary part.
Exactly. That's where you're horrified. Yes.
Or stroke.
Exactly. You're like, how is this going to make me feel? How is this? And then people complain of stomach issues. And I'm like, that's with any diet. Anytime you change the way you're eating, your tummy is not going to like it. Whether you go vegan, vegetarian, or you start introducing meats, your tummy is not going to like it.
Yeah.
And that is for sure.
But then
so it's just a process.
Back on, and now are you reintroducing the meats, the stuff that you used to eat that you liked, and so is that making you throw up, or is it, how is that different now?
I know when I went back onto the PKU diet versus being off when we were trying for Juliet, I was sick for like a month and a half because I went from eating protein and meat consistently to going vegetarian, to going vegan, then to going low protein.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it in baby steps prior to going into clinic. And it took a toll on my body. I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah.
And then it was those textures of the low protein food, the cookies, the coconut yogurts, the coconut ice creams, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. It was retraining my palate to like the food. And some instances, a lot of it I really did like. A lot of it, I could kill a box of PKU cookies in one sitting. That was no problem. But then you go to like PKU low protein meatballs, and it's like, didn't have the texture of meat. So for me, it was a little different, retraining myself to eat, PKU food.
It's kind of interesting how your body gets to tolerate foods that you never liked before.
And pasta, I think pasta was the one thing I actually had to order from Canberra because I could not find any kind of low protein pasta in, Sprouts or Whole Foods or anything like that. So there was no substitution at the grocery store for me as far as that went. Now you do have the PKU people that have a higher tolerance of protein intake, which hyperphagia. They still have PKU, but their protein tolerance is a little bit higher. I'm classic PKU, which means my tolerance is lower. So that's what my sister and I both had. So we were averaging 6 to 8 grams of protein a day on top of our formula, on top of our medical food. So like I said, when you compare that to eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, there's no way. That would kill our protein intake for like 3 days.
Yeah. And I know your numbers have to stay a lot lower with the fee than with HCU. I know ours are between 5 and 20, and yours are like 6 to 8.
That's our protein intake. Our phenylalanine levels need to be between 4 and 6. That's what they consider the normal range. My last one was 7.7. So I mean, it's high, but it's not awful.
There's not a lot of wiggle room there.
There's not. There's really, really not. And that's why I was just like, okay, my level's like 0.3. Like, but they consider that a normal range, even though you feel like 2.
Yeah. So
it's like, well, I'm shaky. I'm tired all the time. I'm irritable. I'm sassy with my kids.
So how do you keep your protein intake within range with having so little amount? Because now you're allowed so much more.
Yeah. Well, now I use my Fitbit. Actually, I have a tracker to where I can enter my meals for the day. It also tracks my water and my glucose levels, so I really like that. A lot of people use my Fitness Pal. That's a good one to use as well. Before, I was using how much feed, because I'm not counting protein. I was counting feed back then. And so we had that app, and with that app, you paid $45 subscription for the year.
Right.
And then you're covered. So that kind of overestimated your phenylalanine intake for the day. So, let's say, you have a baked potato with butter. You're looking at, let's say, 75 grams of feed. That's just for your little baked potato. And then you have carrots and a salad with it. So you're probably looking at like 110 grams of feed just for that one meal. So that's how we were tracking it, because we were counting the phenylalanine versus the protein. Now it's a whole nother ballpark. It's now we're not counting feed anymore. We're counting protein. And so it's a whole nother training process for us as PKU patients. Is okay. Forget what you've learned counting feed. You're going to be counting protein. It's 1 to however many grams. So you're counting grams of protein. And so I think it's a little bit easier, but then it's also like challenging yourself, because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're stepping out of what you know, and how you're counting your food, because you're counting it differently now.
Yeah, that's great.
Minimizing your protein intake, you're going over and you're trying to maximize. Like you have this much protein for the day. You have to try to get as close to that as you possibly can. And I think that's why clinic is realistic in their expectations of like, you're not going to get this from the start. So we're going to monitor your levels. We're going to continue doing every other week with your blood counts. And then we can adjust it where we need to. We're not going to just crack the whip and say, you're not doing this. No, that's not the case. So when we would increase protein, when I first started, they would decrease formula. Increase protein, decrease formula. And that was in June of 2020. I started in March. June 2020 was when I saw my first protein increase. And so by the middle of July of 2020, I was at 66 grams of protein. I was elated. People might find that fearful, you know what I mean? Especially the person who doesn't know how to introduce proteins, because they've been trained, go as little as you can on your protein. Yeah. Exactly. You're going to go with fruit and low protein vegetables. That is going to be your diet. Now you're throwing in dairy, you're throwing in beet, you're throwing in carbohydrates that you wouldn't normally eat, like whole wheat bread and whole wheat pasta, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So I can see where the anxiety comes in.
Problems. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, how is my body going to react to doing this? It's going to react differently because you're changing your diet.
Yeah.
So it's little steps. You take a little bit of this, you take a little bit, and follow your nutritional guides too, because portion control is going to be part of it too.
Yeah.
And then that way you're kind of experimenting. I say go to a buffet. If you see it, try it. That's my suggestion, is go to a buffet. You get that first protein increase, start to experiment with foods you wouldn't normally eat. And then that way you know what you like. You're not going to get stuck with, a big thing of chicken or a big thing of hamburger when you can go out somewhere and just test your palate.
Yeah.
And again, I think going into food-based proteins is not a bad idea. I think that's a good suggestion from clinic, because you're still going to get your protein. It's just plant-based form. And I think plant-based is definitely different than actual animal product.
Right. So to give what does your day look like if you were on 6 to 8 grams of protein versus now?
Okay, so breakfast would be maybe not. I don't think I would waste my protein on almond milk. I would probably go with the dairy-free original creamer and a bowl of Frosted Flakes. That would be breakfast. Lunch would probably be a can of green beans and a baked potato. Dinner, probably a baked potato and a salad. And my formula with, in between every meal. That would be a typical day.
Yeah. So what does it look like now?
Now, breakfast is whole wheat toast, one slice of whole wheat toast, which is 5 grams of protein, 2 eggs, 12 grams of protein, and maybe an avocado. That's a little too much food for one meal for me right now, but that would be a typical, decent amount of protein. That would be probably 20 grams of protein just for breakfast, and then my cup of coffee. And then lunch, probably low-carb tortillas. 2 of them would be 4 grams of protein with cheese and some lunch meat, and do kind of like a quesadilla. So probably another 15 grams of protein right there. So I'm at like 35 grams of protein just with breakfast and lunch. And then dinner with my family could be whole wheat pasta with a meat sauce. And you're looking about 20-25 grams of in there. Snack at night will probably be pistachios or almonds. Those run roughly low, about 5 grams of protein per serving.
Yeah. So what was it like when you first went off diet?
Weird. I was 10. It was weird. I went out and ate a chicken leg. I was just testing it to see if, it was, I think it was weird, but, again, I was that adamant sneaker of food, so, nap time came, grandma fell asleep, I'd go and raid the fridge. That was me. I think that's the difference now, is you still have the kids that are going to sneak food, but I think also explaining to them how it harms their bodies and how the high levels are going to affect them.
Yeah.
And whether they're on the swim team. Because, you see active kids that are going to have a higher protein intake because they need those calories. They need the protein. So you do see those kids that have the higher protein intake because they're in sports and things like that. And it's also understanding what certain foods are going to do to them. And I just don't think back in the 80s we had that education, other than, hey, let's lock the parents in the clinical room and yell at them that their child is sneaking food. And I'm like, that's not going to help either the parent or the child. The parent's already stressed out enough because their child has a phenylalanine level of 45. That just baffles me. It's like, are you going to do that to us as grown-ups, I don't know.
So what about when you went on diet again? Did you...
I said, I was sick for a good minute. I was sick for a month and a half. The digestive issues of just it was like a cleanse. It was like a body cleanse, but I knew what I needed to do.
So how did you go about that? When you were around other people who can have anything they want, and then all of a sudden
I started altering recipes to where I could eat it. If I saw them eating sloppy joes, I would do cauliflower sloppy joes with low protein bread. So I would saute my cauliflower the same way I'd make sloppy joes. And a lot of the time, my family would eat low protein. And then I would serve some form of protein with dinner. Like if I made corn chowder, I'd make it low protein to where I could eat it. And a lot of the times they'd eat. And then I'd just saute up some chicken and throw it in with the corn chowder. And everybody seemed fine with it.
Yeah. And
because it's like, do you go online and look at the menu to see what you can? Because a lot of that's the cool thing about the West, Utah and further west, is the vegan options are amazing. You have cauliflower tacos. You could do a cauliflower taco on a corn tortilla. Yeah, your corn tortilla is going to be higher in phenylalanine, but allow that splurge every once in a while. You're going out to dinner for your birthday. Allow it. Cauliflower tacos or roasted vegetable tacos. There are so many vegan options here in the state of Utah. It's amazing. Jackfruit. I can go out and find 4 restaurants right now that I can think of that'll sell jackfruit as an option of your meal.
Yeah, you won't find that back east either. So it's...
And that's unfortunate because I think you know, you have those, I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a surfer thing or what, but you have so many options. You know, jackfruit is an option. I've seen how much it costs at Whole Foods, and I'm like, holy cow, that's insane.
Yeah. I went to Washington, D.C. for February for the Rare Disease Week, and almost nothing in D.C. is...
Well, you know, your go-to is French fries and salad. I mean,
yeah.
That's your only, like, TGI Fridays, they would have green bean French fries. That was a go-to when I went out. Or cauliflower buffalo wings. You know, that's a thing at Wild Buffalo Wings, is a thing that you can order on the menu. Let's see, Red Lobster, they have caramelized Brussels sprouts. Now, Brussels sprouts are on the higher end of phenylalanine, so monitor how many you're eating, because I love Brussels sprouts, especially when they're, you know, nice and crunchy. But that's, you know, an option when you have a higher thing, but you're still kind of like working on what exactly you want to start introducing. You know, just kind of gradually work your way up. But those are just a couple of things I can think of at local restaurants. I think that's when I started really considering Palynziq, watching the cooking channel all the time. It's like, ooh, I could do that with mushroom, or ooh, I could do that with cauliflower, you know? It was just finding those ways to make it where I can eat it.
Yeah.
And you know what? 90% of the time when I went to barbecues and I took stuff with me, they had no idea.
Yeah.
They had no idea it was all vegetables.
Yeah.
I took an enchilada casserole. I made a taco casserole out of jackfruit. It was vegan. It was dairy free. Nobody had any idea. I covered all the dietary restrictions on that one casserole, and it was delicious. They had no idea. They had no idea. So it's getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things, or even catering it to how you can eat it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're scared, there's ways of finding a way to add that protein in it or to remove it. It's finding, you know, what works best for you.
Yeah. So, you have a great attitude around this stuff, though. I mean,
I did a lot of, you know, and when I first started entering the PKU rooms, and I didn't understand the different levels of PKU. You know, classic PKU, hyper-Phe, you know, what was it? The terminology.
So what was the turning point?
Go ahead.
What was the turning point for you when you decided it wasn't that you weren't going to cheat anymore?
I think when we started talking about baby number 2, that was just, I have to get my crap in order. I have to get myself in check. I have to get healthy if I want a healthy pregnancy. And I think that was the difference, is I'm not young and naive and taking my health and PKU for granted. Because as much as I wanted to disappear, as much as I wanted to pray it away, as much as I wanted to believe that God had healed me of it, I still had it, you know? I still had it. And am I angry? No, I'm not. Was I a little naive in it? Probably. But then it got to a point where if I want this to happen, it's not going to be about me. But I need to make sure my vessel is healthy for a pregnancy. I have to make sure I'm able to do this. And I never thought I was going to get pregnant right away. I never thought that I was going to have the amazing mindset that I did. You know, I wasn't thinking that, oh, hey, it's not about me. You know, I'm just I'm just the carrier.
Yeah.
In a sense. But no, it was, I even surprised myself. I surprised clinic, you know, it's not about me, it's not about me. That was always my thing, and my level showed that. My level went up to 5 one time during my pregnancy. The rest of the time, it was under 2. It was under 3 the rest of the time. And, you know, if you want you want that baby bad enough, we can do it, ladies. I'm here to tell you, we can do it.
Yeah.
And if your doctor tells you that you can't, find another doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Find another doctor, because he's not listening. He's reading the books. He's reading the statistics on women. See, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You shouldn't have a doctor dictate you becoming a mom, because you can't. Mm-hmm. You can control a pregnancy through diet. Mm-hmm. I've had children off and on a diet. I am a true testament. I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
That the doctors can sit here and tell you, no, you're going to have a retarded kid. No, you're going to lose the baby. No, that baby's going to have so many malformations, it's not even going to be funny. That is strictly your opinion.
Yeah. And then there's also, you read the textbooks. Oh, they're going to die by the time they're 30.
I'm 42.
Yeah. And I'm 53.
I'm still here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I did lose a dear friend that I found out, and she was in her 50s. And she was one of those women that wasn't diagnosed at PKU until later in life. Same with her sister. Now, she was one of the older women that did suffer from the seizures. It was a side effect of the PKU and the higher levels on the brain. But, you know, she got on diet. Her sister did suffer from some levels of retardation, because again, the birth screenings weren't there when they were little, so it definitely affected them. Mm-hmm. But they got on diet. You know, I was constantly, when I started Palynziq, I was constantly sending her my stuff, because I'm like, I don't want it to go to waste.
Yeah.
You know, I have probably $150 worth of low protein food. You know, and you see that, you know, kids' flavor palettes are changing, or they decided that they don't like it. The only thing we ask is that you pay shipping, you know, and that's, you know, that's not a big thing. I have a couple PKU books I'm going to, you know, ship out to somebody who needs them. It's just, I don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, those are books that you're going to find at Barnes & Noble for $50. And it's just like, you know, once you know what you're dealing with, especially, it can be overwhelming. It can be extremely overwhelming to a new mom, a new dad finding out that their kid has PKU.
Yeah.
Doctors need to start taking that kind of stuff into consideration. Like, they're delivering bad news to a parent who's about to lose a loved one. Mm-hmm. You know,
PKU is a little bit more well-known. Other conditions, it's like, it's a paragraph in a textbook. And so it's like, you don't need to know about that until you do.
So it's, unless they have to deal with it, then don't deal with it. But it's doctors educating themselves too.
Yeah.
You know, you have to know about PKU. It's a rare genetic disorder, but still, mom and dad just have to carry it.
Yeah. So it's like, well, what do you say to those who say, oh, you know, I don't have anything to do with this. Why should I care?
Mm-hmm. Unless you deal with it firsthand. And that's just like, but you never know when you're going to get that patient walking through your clinic door.
Yeah.
Are you not taking any new patients? Well, no. Mm-hmm. Okay, then. You don't know if you're going to have a PKU patient coming through. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, medications, how medications affect us. Mm-hmm. You know, luckily I've been, you know, because it was an anti-nausea medication that could raise your phenylalanine. And I'm like, well, it's either I throw up and have to replace everything I eat, or, you know, take this medication that has phenylalanine in it. You know, I don't think we normally get those warning labels on medication unless the doctors tell us.
Yeah.
The pharmacist, do you have any questions? You know, especially if you have PKU, and, you know, just let the doctor know, hey, I have PKU, what is this? You know, it's a new medication, I'm not aware if it has phenylalanine in it or not. Mm-hmm. I know the last chat in our group was diet sodas. And, some people, it's a trigger for migraines and things like that. It used to be for me. Mm-hmm. It used to be for me, not so much anymore. But it was always, the clinic had told me, if you do consume diet sodas, that you count it as 1 gram of protein. And they're like, oh, well, some doctors say it's no, it's bad, yada, yada. I mean, yeah, aspartame is never good for you. But, I mean, you have to consume such a large amount of it for it to cause harm to your body. But as a PKU patient, you just have to count it like you would any other gram of protein that you consume.
Right. So, I remember people asking even about lotions and stuff. And it's...
interesting.
Yeah, because there was one person, I think in Cook for Love, that was asking, do I need to worry about this because this lotion has phenylalanine in it? And
interesting.
And it's like, yeah, it still goes through your skin and goes into your body. And so
I saw a woman jelly shoes from Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Jelly shoes grandmother got jelly shoes for her granddaughter. There was a phenylalanine label on the shoe.
On the shoes? Where?
On the shoe. I remember that conversation now that we're talking about weird things that have phenylalanine in it.
Yeah.
And it was a pair of jelly shoes. And it actually increased her. They removed the shoes. Her level went down. Coincidence? Maybe. But it had that warning label on the shoe.
Yeah.
I used to wear jellies all the time. Maybe that's why my level went up to 45.
Yeah.
Not really. But you know what I mean? It's just read the labels, ask questions. That's the cool thing about the clinic here, because it's Primary Children's Hospital, and then we also it's connected to the medical school, which is the U of U. Mm-hmm. So you constantly have young doctors coming and going who are studying nutrition, and it's like, but I like the fact that they have these students coming in and learning about metabolic disorders. Mm-hmm. Not just one, not just diabetes, not just PKU, but they're learning all about them. Because when we have get-togethers, it's covering every metabolic disorder, not just PKU.
Yeah.
Because when they set up the tables and booths, yes, ma'am. Oh, you want me to move the basket? Yes, ma'am. What box? Sorry. Oh, well, in a minute. I'm almost done, okay? Children.
Yeah.
My injections came in. It's on the kitchen table, and she's like, it's in my way. I'm trying to sit. I'm like, don't have to wait. It requires 2 hands. But that's the cool thing. I mean, I don't like having to explain my story to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes into the room.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they cover the clinicals thoroughly when they have medical students coming through, because I feel that that's something that needs to be shared. And that's why I'm not so anal about, no, I just want my doctor in here, that's it. Because how are we going to educate people about PKU and other metabolic disorders if we're like, no, they can't come in?
Yeah.
Or it could be just certain sessions, certain parts of your visit, certain parts of your appointment that you're okay with them coming in on, because they do need to know about this, because how else are we going to treat it? How else is medicine and treatment going to
And that's actually one of the reasons why I started believing in the doctors, is because the geneticist brought their students in and actually questioned them. And like, well, maybe you do know something. And
because it could be something that they're going to experience later on in life when they're ready to have kids. You never know. It could be juvenile diabetes.
They're going to run into it, but
Yep, and I actually have 2 friends in the area that have PKU that are on Palynziq too. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see, and she took forever to respond. Forever. Now she's unrestricted. We both go to the same clinic. And it's like, just be patient. we're all different. Our bodies do things differently. We're not the same. If we were the same genetic coding, we would have wiped this out a long time ago,
Yeah.
And it's the same with any metabolic disorder. It's like
Right.
we would have, if it were that easy, we would have done it. We would have accepted the treatment as that patient and been like, good, we're done, we're clear, we're normal.
Mm-hmm.
We can do normal things with our body without worrying about how it's going to affect us long term.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to pay attention.
Yeah.
We have to pay attention. I mean, it's like a food allergy. You still have to pay attention to that nutrition label.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making those healthy choices. Because I think that's the biggest thing where they see that weight gain is because, we just want to eat. We have that freedom now.
Yeah.
But then it's like, are we getting our protein or are we just eating crap?
Yeah.
Which I'm not even going to lie. Pasta definitely was my go-to.
Pasta you're going to get anyway because that's medical food also.
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy.
That's pretty much all.
It's comfortable.
Is pasta. Pasta and cookies and everything that most people avoid.
Yep.
Because it's so high in sugar. Our diet is exactly the opposite of everybody else's.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's sugar and carbs.
Yeah. Especially
carbs.
If you can't afford the medical foods,
it's scary because you do see those PKU patients in other countries that are, it's how are we gonna supply our children with the nutrition that they need? And I'm like, this is where we need government to step in. This is where we need assistance from them, especially to the higher populated areas, I guess.
Yeah, and that's another thing we're working on with the Medical Nutrition Equity Act. Mm-hmm. Finding a House Republican. So, with that in mind, you can contact Nutrition Equity. Go to nutritionequity.org and if you're watching this, and you can write your House and Senate representatives. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go. I thank you for your time, and thanks for
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to nutritionequity.org. Join us next time. Next Sunday, because Tuesday's a holiday, I'll be interviewing Susan Needleman from the maple syrup urine disease community, and to explore critical issues surrounding the nutrition, health, and social justice. Remember, when it comes to achieving quality nutrition, our voices and actions matter. And if you're seeing this, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.